Okay, so the aim of my essay is to explore how diverse Hebrew groups in Israel performing in Jewish languages other than Hebrew help to preserve these languages in the fiction from official Jewish that dominated mainstream stages almost completely in Israel until the 1990s. After Jewish languages were relegated to rare amateur or community theater, and in the 1950s were actually barred of mainstream stages, as was the case with Yiddish-speaking performances. In the new non-mainstream classical phenomenon that we found in the classical scene in the 21st century, across the country one can attend shows practically every Jewish language. And I would like to introduce my book, published a few months ago. I have documented and researched many of these groups and language performers, Jewish languages on the Israeli stage. And I would like to show you a list of languages that I am dealing with in my book. Hebrew and Arabic are the main languages spoken and public domain. Maghrebi, the Jewish dialect of Moroccan Arabic spoken Jews from Iraq. Ladino, the Jewish dialect of Greece, the Balkans, and Turkey. Yiddish, the Eastern European Jewish dialect. Juhuri, spoken by the Jews of Azerbaijan and Dagestan in the Caucasus. Aramaic, the language of Kurdish Jews. Bukharan from Uzbekistan and Tajikistan in Central Asia, and more. This new initiative in Israeli theater are a symptom of a major shift taking place, inseparable from a quest for identity and cultural diversity, which includes a politically aware rejection of the essentialist attitude that the Hebrew language is a sine qua non for Israeli theater. Basing my current essay on 3 case studies that are, in my view, key phenomena, and this is theater in Maghrebi, theater in Yiddish, and theater in Bukharan, I analyze in interviews with founders of these theaters and focus on the emergence of their initiatives. My work here is pioneering. Nobody has documented these productions, and is thus primarily ethnographic in nature. In archiving the main data, I'm basing my work on oral history methodology. My study draws upon formal, in-depth interviews with performers and directors, spontaneous interviews, and theater conversations recorded or jotted down in a field journal, videotapes, ego documents, post-performance discussions, texts, and press reviews. Jewish culture in the diaspora was essentially multilingual. Jews' vernacular speech was a communal dialect, while literary and religious texts were written in a language patterned altogether differently, mostly Hebrew, sometimes Aramaic. The languages of Jewish heritage belong to various families: Germanic, Turkic, Iranian, Semitic, and more. In fact, the languages of Jews in their diasporic lands of origin were not essentially different from the dialects of other communities in the same environment. Only when the community relocated did its language become markedly different from the surrounding language, as with Ladino speakers in Russia. Jewish dialects developed regionally, consisting of Hebrew grafted onto a framework of local languages. In addition to the most prominent examples, Yiddish, which is Judeo-German, Ladino, medieval Castilian, and Judeo-Arabic, such as Jewish Moroccan, Jewish Iraqi, and more. There are lesser known languages, including Judeo-Provençal, Judeo-Persian, spoken by Jews in Iran, Uzbekistan, and Central Asia, Judeo-Tat, the Turkic and Iranic language of Jews from the Caucasus, to name but some of the more prominent. Many of these languages were customarily written in Hebrew letters, but they are really separate, if related, languages. And the State of Israel was formed in 1948, and the government took Hebrew to be the de facto official language. a melting pot policy discouraged the use of any other Jewish language, which coincided with the cultural homogenization and contributed to the formation of a unified and univocal people. The government of Israel adopted the ideology of the melting pot in order to create homogeneity in place of heterogeneity, which is with its source in the Jewish diaspora. Today, most of the languages of the Jews are considered endangered, but the process undergone by these languages has been rather unique. If Jewish communities in the diaspora had stayed in place, perhaps their languages would have died out like other minority tongues, but instead they were brought to the state of Israel in the massive immigrations from around the world, although parts of the communities immigrated to other countries, and are still in use in domestic and communal spaces. These languages have been plucked from where they grew, along with their speakers, and replanted in the state of Israel with its ideology of Hebrew, where they became grandparents' languages. Vis-a-vis Hebrew, they are facing extinction of a particular kind. They are dying out due to the wishes of the speakers themselves to adhere to the Israeli ethos of revival and sovereignty, an ethos of return to an ancient geographic location where diaspora languages have taken on a post-vernacular status. In other words, their extinction has a suicidal dimension. As a result, these languages receive almost no support from the state for efforts of preservation. Most work benefiting the languages relies on private initiatives, heritage bodies, diverse organizations, and nonprofits, and in recent years, a number of associations that have been established in Israel documenting, preserving, and even reviving Jewish languages. As opposed to the official policy vacuum are the private, communal, and academic efforts of preservation. Projects such as courses to learn the Moroccan Jewish language, privately established over the last 20 years, and which more recently have found a home at the National Library in Jerusalem. Or website preserving the Iraqi language with tens of thousands of followers, and the Aramaic Language Revival Committee in Israel, helped by the Kurdish Jews, and by revival efforts of Syriac speakers of Aramaic throughout the world. These are just isolated examples of initiatives to preserve and revive Jewish heritage languages. In the absence of an embracing and agreed upon policy, every initiative and body does its best in its own way. However, doing theater in endangered languages is the most effective way for preservation. In theater, language is used naturally as a mode of communication between the characters on stage and between the stage and the audience. And I would like to go to my first case study. Yiddish Spiel, founded in 1987 in Tel Aviv by Shmuel Atzmon Wirtzer, was the first non-Hebrew yet Jewish language theater to obtain Israeli government funding. Atzmon Wirtzer, a former Habima National Theater actor, is a Polish-born Holocaust survivor whose mother tongue is Yiddish. Born in 1929, after arriving in Israel as a youngster, Atzmon Wirtzer did his best to repress the love for his mother language and acted only in Hebrew. The idea to act in Yiddish has struck him ironically at the Habima National Theater in 1984. From Atzmon Wirtzer's point of view, it was a kind of poetic justice that Israel's National Hebrew Theater hosted the first state-funded Yiddish production. Yet the path to the founding of an independent Yiddish theater was to take another 3 years, during which Atzmon Wirtzer and his friends toured the world with their Yiddish show. At one festival, where they appeared, in Wiesbaden, capital city of Germany's federal state of Hesse, the organizers asked if one of them would say a few words to the audience after the show. Atzmon Wirtzer decided that he would speak Yiddish, and he addressed the audience from the stage. Quote, "I feel like the fool in a Shakespearean tragedy," he said, and continued. "When I stood on the stage and you laughed, my heart was bleeding because it's from here that orders was issued to exterminate millions of Jews and the Yiddish culture. And yet I still dream that something can save the Yiddish culture and language, and I'm turning to both Germans and Israelis 5 minutes before everything disappears to do something, unquote. Hesse's Minister of Science and Arts, Dr. Vera Rüdiger, was also in the audience, tells Axmon Wirtzer. Rüdiger offered a grant for Yiddish theater in Israel from funds earmarked for collaboration between Germany and Israel, cultural and scientific entities. Back in Israel, Axmon Wirtzer assumed the task of finding someone to come on board the project. Though everyone was worried by the hegemonist reaction to the unpopular initiative. By chance, Axmon Wirtzer met the mayor of Tel Aviv and told him about his dream and the grant from Germany. The mayor said, of course, we need a Yiddish theater. He was Berlin born and immediately grasped the idea's importance and helped allocate a city budget to found the Yiddish theater, while at the same time refused to accept the grant from Hesse. He urged Axmon Wirtzer to become the theater manager. Israel's Ministry of Culture has recognized the Yiddish Spiel as a repertoire theater in every sense and funds it like other Israeli theaters, which stage dramas in the States, main languages Hebrew and Arabic. For Axmon Wirtzer, theater in Yiddish performs both its inclusion in the hegemonic Israeli culture and its exclusivity. He testifies that it was the festival in Wiesbaden, in Hesse, which triggered Yiddish Spiel's establishment, linking the existence of this theater with a place, Germany, that lost most of its Yiddish speakers, thus infusing his description with poetic justice and dramatic meaning. My second case study, the Israeli Moroccan theater, came into existence in Israel in 2001, thanks to Sarit, who was born in Morocco and came to Israel with her family at the age of 4. In her 50s, she had been an actress, director, and drama teacher for 30 years. She says, quote, my mother didn't know Hebrew fluently, so she couldn't go to theater, but she loved it. And adds, I've always thought it would be great if my mother could attend theater in her mother tongue, unquote. Ivgi tells that when she eventually succeeded in convincing the mayor of her town to support her initiative after he had told her she was dreaming, he suggested holding rehearsals in a community center. She started auditioning actors from the surrounding area, amateurs who loved acting and had some knowledge of Maghrebi. The older actors were more fluent and taught the younger ones. Ivgi was confident that the moment the first Maghrebi words were uttered on stage before an audience of Moroccan Israelis, the spectators would roar with laughter. And right she was. Her show was a huge success. Until Ivgi demonstrated the financial feasibility of the endeavor, other professional actors and directors of Moroccan origin were unwilling to risk their reputations or funding on Maghrebi language productions. The instant success of her vision triggered a startup industry. Within the next few years, several actors and directors established small independent theater companies to appeal to the market of Maghrebi speakers. According to Ivgi, her startup filled up a void and catered to the needs of older people, like her mother, whose grasp of Hebrew was insufficient. The audience reception reinforced her remark. I have some quotes. I left Morocco when I was 24. The show is wonderful, brings back words, memories, proverbs, and sayings. I am very moved. It's a return to my roots. The sayings, the tricks, and the pranks on stage brought back memories for many spectators, undoubtedly. The show in Moroccan took me back 40 years ago to the language at its best. Luckily, we have managed to restore the Moroccan language and now can be heard all over the lobby of the theater in our town. Ivgi's understanding of the need for an exclusive theater in Maghrebi was clearly right. Her audience demonstrates their view that theater in Maghrebi is a welcome intervention and inclusion in the Israeli theater. And my last case study, the Bukharan Theater Hamda Hamda. meaning laughter. The new immigrants arriving in Israel from Soviet Union in the 1970s and ex-Soviet Union in the 1990s were well versed in theater. Some theater artists from the Soviet Union who came to Israel sought to establish theaters in Russian or in the Jewish language spoken in their communities. Hai Davidov, who established a theater in Bukharan, the language of Jews from, sorry, I'll go back to this. The language of Jews from Uzbekistan and Tajikistan in 2005, Hai Davidov is his name. He's the only one of the three theater makers discussed here to be born in Israel. Davidov recounts that he learned the Bukharan language mainly from his grandmother and reconstructs what she told him and what he told her. So this is Hai Davidov. Grandma, look, these are people who in Uzbekistan, ex-Soviet Union, I know, all went to the theater. They all played a musical instrument. It was part of the curriculum. They are all continuously involved in culture, the theater, the stage. How is it that these beautiful people, from the day they arrived in Israel, stopped going to the theater, to the cinema, didn't even know where it was, weren't involved at all? She told me, they went then, but where will they go now when they don't know the language? So I promised my grandmother, I told her, look, if these beautiful people aren't coming to the theater, one day I will bring theater to the Bukharans. End of quote. Davidov was born in 1979 and is a graduate of the Nissan acting studio in Tel Aviv. Although he dreamed of becoming an actor, he had no intention of acting in Bukharan. He attests that the more successful he became as an actor, director, and scriptwriter in Hebrew, and the more doors opened to him in Hebrew theater, the more he realized that his unique creativity was connected to the Bukharan identity he had left behind. He saw the case to establishing a theater in the Bukharan language, and I quote him. On the day I finished my studies, I established the Nonsense Group, and we performed as a team doing some very funny things. And one day they invited us to appear at this event of the Bukharan Jewish Congress in front of Bukharan students who had received grants from the Congress. An hour-long performance entirely in Hebrew, and very funny. I added a skit in Bukharan. I saw that the audience laughed throughout the performance, but the laughter in that sketch was a different laughter, a soul laughter. And the players stopped for each minute of laughter and each second of applause, so that a 5-minute skit turned into one of 25 minutes just because of the laughter, just because of the applause. I understood that something was going on here. I understood that the community wanted something of me. They expected things of us. It was the community that was making demands. End of quote. The road from there to opening the Bukharan theater was short, a theater in which Davidov writes, acts in, and directs a new production every year. The exclusivity of the theater in Bukharan signifies for him the word he always wanted, and concomitantly, inclusivity in the Israeli society with its heterogeneity. To conclude, the on-stage use of diverse Jewish languages constitutes part of the move to include multiple narratives in the social, political, artistic, and linguistic Israeli domains. In these productions, multilingualism is addressing power imbalances among languages in the Israeli context. These works enrich Israeli theater and drama by bringing diversity of marginalized voices and traditions to the fore. Hopefully, Israeli mainstream stages will initiate a process that recognizes Israel's rich cultural capital. And this is the end of my presentation. These are my references, my address, and thank you very much.
Okay. Professor Salem wants to say something about the presentation. The floor is yours.
I'm using the dictatorship of this chair here to start the thing. I hope it's not the debate. No, I just, it's fascinating to hear that, but I wanted to bring it, it's not the first word, but just to bring it to the rest of the thing, because the case of Israel is extremely important from the point of view of revitalization in that sense. In fact, the whole legend around the world among people whose languages are either endangered, obviously, or just a minority and don't have a say, is to look at Israel and say, look what a phenomenon has happened there. What an extraordinary thing. You take a language which was the language of religion, the language of liturgy, and was only spoken, if you can call it spoken, in synagogues, and all of a sudden it was, to all intents and purposes, it was a dead language. And yet it was revived, and it became national language, and it became a scientific language. And you know, we use sometimes the religion as a as justification, but it shouldn't miss that. And then suddenly, now that we have this fantastic revitalized language, which is the national and scientific language, then all the other people who spoke different languages, even when Hebrew was there, then realized that their own languages are actually probably threatened. And this is why I think this presentation is really important and really great in this thing. Is that to bring this, first of all, look at, it's a fantastic thing to do it, but then don't go from the extinct and the powerless to being the dominant language. And that's what actually I think from Sarit's thing we can derive. Then it's become a dominant language, perhaps not its own fault, but what place is there left for the other languages? Because they're all Jewish languages, no less than Hebrew. And so that's, I think, one thing that we have to think when we're thinking of our endangered languages in general around the world, our liturgic languages and all our national languages, etc., with relation to the rest. I just wanted to bring that to the common theme. Thank you.
Thank you. No. It's a pleasure listening to you, and I think, if I have understood well, the key point is that Jewish language and Hebrew similarly should be modeled upon for any presumably endangered language, so that it will be revived and maintained and preserved. Now I open the floor to some questions and maybe reflections and interactions with the presentation. The floor is yours. Sir, the microphone please.
Well, thank you, Sarit, for this very interesting presentation. I was pleased to see the Bukharan community coming from Central Asia myself. We know that the Bukharan Jews, they endured some difficulties in Soviet time, and many of them moved to USA and Israel, and created a very solid community. But what I also observe is that the Bukharan Jews, their language is quite different from the official Hebrew language. So when they organize this kind of performances, I'm wondering who are their audience? Do they attract only people who speak the language, or they are able to bring to the theater people of different dialects, and whether they are able to communicate their culture through the language which is comprehensible to other participants, or the Jews from different communities and dialects and languages. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. The floor is yours, Professor Sarit, to interact with the comment and the question.
Yes, I think it's indeed a very interesting question, and the three case studies that I brought here responded differently to the same question. The Bukharans, they're very well organized community, Haidavido sometimes even complains that they marry within the community, they always have Bukharan food, Bukharan language, Bukharan songs, etc. And the shows are in Bukharan, meaning that only the community attends them, but to full houses. Really, they make a lot of money, and they have no support from the government at all. On the other hand, the Moroccan shows, for a while they used subtitles in Hebrew, basically because the Moroccan community is more involved, and so-called intermarriages are more common than within the Bukharans. So many times that when I wanted to interview people who entered the lobby, and I wanted to ask them, what are you doing here and why and how, many of them answered, oh, I just came with my wife. I don't know Moroccan. So they had subtitles there. In Yiddish, there's a large population speaking in Yiddish, so they basically don't need more than those who do speak or understand Yiddish, but still they do have subtitles. So according to whether they offer or not subtitles or simultaneous translation, which they did have in the Moroccan shows, that's what counts when you think of other people who don't even understand the language. I think and hope that these shows should be funded by the National Theatre. They should be offered to the entire public, and with subtitles or without subtitles, but it shouldn't be something only for the community for itself.
All right. So thank you very much indeed, Professor Sarit. Do you have something to add? Because we still have 1 minute, the time allotted to your presentation.
If I have something to add, or someone wants to ask or say,
I think Professor Barbara has a comment or a question. Please go ahead.
Yes, partly you have already answered, but I wanted to know, if I may, about the young generations. No, so how they, because it's important to pass the language to the young generations, and I wanted to know if there is something with schools as well, if they do something with schools. And the third thing is about music. Do they, because through music and songs, that sometimes the language can survive. So I was wondering if, there are music schools, not just theater, which they do something. So just one question divided in 3 little parts. It was very interesting. Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Thank you. Yes, musicians are singing in all these languages. I must say it's easier to sing in these languages than to follow a show. So we basically have terrific musicians who do Yemenite music, Bukharan music, Moroccan music. It's really very well developed, much more than theater, because it's not dependent upon understanding the text. And this is usually done by young people. I am not very optimistic about young people to carry on these languages. They mostly think of this, as Haidavidov said, about it's his grandmother's language. I'm not very optimistic about the revival. No,
All right. All right, thank you very much indeed for
Thank
this presentation, which serves as an interesting
Thank you.
dish, intellectual dish for reflection. Now it's time we move to the second presentation, but to be presented by Professor Fakhruddin Akhundzada, entitled Collaborative Efforts. Yeah, you can join us here, please. Join the panel. In northern Pakistan for revitalizing endangered languages and culture. Yeah.
This is a region 1,000 kilometers, same as England size, and the 10% population of country live in this region. It is a line in the crossroad of Central Asia, Himalaya, and Hindu Kush. This is the region. We were in the middle region, and in the other side, in the western side is Afghanistan, in the eastern side is China and India. In this region, there are more than 30 languages, and the population of these languages are from a few hundred to 100,000. Some of these languages are used as lingua franca in the valleys, in these valleys. And these languages belong to three different language families: Indo-Iranian, Indo-Iranian, and one language in the region is independent. It is not related to any family. And the fourth one is Tibeto-Burman. These three families and one independent language are lying in this region. These languages were endangered because there was no revitalization effort in this region. The community was lacking awareness, and government policy was not holistic. These three were the main reasons, but there are some other factors causing endangerment to these languages. And the speakers were shifting to state-sponsored language or some other influential languages. They were giving up their own mother tongue and shifting to these two languages. The organization with whom I am associated was established in 2002. Our work is mainly to train community people in language documentation, preservation, and promotion. Before 2002, some people were working individually, and they were not having proper training, tools, and techniques. They developed their own writing system that were having some one or another issues. Sometimes linguistic issue, other time computational issue. They were working with those kind of orthography. What we did was we carried out a basic research about the languages in the region. Then we trained people, community members, language speakers in basic language documentation. Then we helped them in developing their orthography. The languages that were having orthography were facing some issue. We helped them in resolving those orthography. And some languages were totally not having orthography. So we helped them in resolving the orthography issues. And then we helped them in producing literature in their mother tongue. This is my paper research. Please go ahead. These are two questions. Yes. Yes. What we did is these collaboration between language community and my organization. What we did, we developed orthography publication. We published the material, and then community-based are going to be motivated the community to organize themselves into organization, mother tongue-based multilingual education, attitude change, policy change and implementation, PC and Android keyboards, translation. I'm coming to detail. Go ahead. These are, the first list, there are 8 languages. These languages were already having some kind of orthography. the orthography developed by individual people without a background of linguistic training and courses. So we help this language community in resolving their orthography issues. The second list, where there are 7 languages, these languages were not having totally orthography. So after the community people attending training from our organization, they develop orthography for their mother tongues. Yes. Additionally, in the orthography, we resolve inconsistency in using characters. Some, for 3 or 4 people are working for his mother tongue. One is using one symbol, another is using other symbol. So there are no consistency among the speaker to use same symbol for one sound. So these were the issue of the spelling. Most of these languages are using Perso-Arabic script. Perso-Arabic script is very more issues than other script regarding the spelling system. So these were the most system. And then what we did, develop rule for borrowing words. Most languages are borrowing words from other languages. So there were no rule. And dialectal differences were another issue, were causing developing orthography. After that, we publish the material the community people develop. Community people are very interested to author some one or other kind of, like poetry. They are interested to write their poetry. They are interested to write folk tales of their communities. They are interested to collect proverbs, and there are many other material. They are interested to collect and they publish. They were not having resources to publish their writing, so we publish their material. So so far we have published 67 books in 16 languages of this region. Next, please. These are the table of language. How many books we have published in how many languages? So total 27, 67. 21 is totally one language, mono language books, which is in vernacular. 27 language books we have published. They are multilingual. 1, 2 language. Our second language, national language is Urdu. Most authors are interested to author some material in his mother tongue, then translate some part into Urdu. So these were the list of the books. Community, we learned the lesson that working a community-based organization, a language-based community is more effective than working with some people individually or some groups. So we motivated them to organize themselves in a community-based organization. So they agreed. Out of our target 32 languages, we are working with 21 language communities in this region. Among 15 language community has a well organization, community-based organization. And then some language community were interested to teach their mother tongue to their children in their own school. These are not government school. Government school. In the government school in Pakistan, Urdu and English is used as a medium of instruction in the books. But some community has their own community school, and we help them in developing curriculum. School, we also help them in training school management committee and teaching. We are teacher training. We conducted teacher training for them, and we also printed this school material, children's books for them. Policy, in Pakistan so far there were Urdu is declared a national language in our constitution, and English is used as a colonial remaining of British, still in our offices in government organization English is used. These two languages were using to run the government affairs, and even school their mother tongue is were not using so far. But we run advocacy in government level with policy makers and community leaders, religious leaders, some kind of advocacy. We convince them that the mother tongue should be part of education. We have succeeded in two regions in our target area. One province has included so far 7 languages in school. The other province has just included, but work has not started. The province where 7 languages has included, they have developed book up to the class 7. They started it in 2016. Each year they are developing one book for one class, and they are distributing among the students. And so far, they have developed up to the 7th grade in 4 languages. 3 languages are remaining behind due to one or other reason, so they have to work another 3 languages in these provinces. Earlier, as I told, only Urdu or English was using in the school. Now, in this region, in one province, 4 mother tongue are part of the schools. Yes, this is I. Go ahead, please. Another thing we realize, sometimes an organization should study what the community people are facing challenges in their mother tongue. In social media, we saw that many people are writing in their mother tongue, but the computational digital devices were not supporting to them. As you know, each language has its own specific sound, and for the specific sound, the linguists or community people have developed specific character. So Urdu is our mother tongue, so Urdu is not fulfilling the need of the community people, because each language has their own additional character and additional sounds. So we realized this, and then we asked some computer engineer, and they agreed to develop Android keyboards. The community, these are less resource people, only mobile, cell phone. Majority people have cell phone. Then we realized that we help them in resolving their issue, writing their mother tongue through cell phone. That would be helpful. But it was helpful. So we developed Android keyboard for 7 languages. And these are report from the Google Play. Khoar language has been developed 1,000 times, and Shina language has been developed 1,000 plus times. Indus Koistani 500 times. Yatra is a very highly endangered language. Yatra is not shifting to new generation. So 10 people has. Gauri has more than 100 plus. Palola has plus 100 plus, and Kati is 50. Kati we have recently. And attitude change is one of the issues everywhere. In Pakistan, being a colonial country, everyone thought that our children should learn English and Urdu, some influential languages. These were the mindset of common people. But now the community, because of education, the changes is happening. Many people are preferring to use their own mother tongue in public, in religious sermon, in many other places. These were our some idea come to our mind, and when Convent hit the country, government banned movement for us, and it also caused for our organization. We decided to develop a documentary regarding awareness of Convent, and so we, in 15 languages, we developed a 5-minute documentary in the mother tongue of these communities. So here, one of the target communities, it is a Kalasha. The population of these communities is 5,000. It is, Google says 5.2 thousand times it has been voiced. So even it looks like that some people are watching more than one time. So this is in poetry and music. We are also encouraging to local. In the past, they used to use poetry and music in the second language, in the official language. Now we are encouraging them to compose music and poetry in their own mother tongue. We have also success in these regards. So now the situation in northern Pakistan is much different than it was 20 years back. People are aware of their linguistic rights. They are authoring books, and the books are, some children are learning their mother tongue, and they are publishing material. And two provinces have included language in their constitution, in the curriculum. So our recommendation is, if any organization is working for the preservation and promotion of the languages, they should first carry out survey. There are always some people in the community who are more interested to work for their languages, like poet, folktale teller, musicians, singer. These people are more interested to work to preserve and promote their mother tongue. These are references. I have to tell you just one lesson you have to take from me, is that language promotion is not the work of only linguists. It is not the work of community people. It is work of multi-stakeholder. You have to involve journalists to tell them that this region has cultural and linguistic diversity. He should know everything about the region. You have to involve policy makers to develop policy for language inclusion. You have to involve community leaders, either they are religious leader or political leader. You need to work with them. And like these, many stakeholders are there to develop and to preserve and promote indigenous languages. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Fakhruddin, for these remarkable efforts that are put forth to preserve and enrich language and cultures in Pakistan. Now, before giving the floor to the audience, I again give the floor to Professor Salim Salam, okay, without titles, to reflect on the presentation.
No, thank you. No, it's just again, I want to link something to the other. I want to bring back the keynote speakers paper when we're talking about script and talking about Ifina, etc. You've heard what Fakhruddin has said, that the Perso-Arabic script created loads of problems for those languages. And the Arabic script has alphabets have merit according to the languages they use, they serve rather. And the Arabic script is very well known because it's an abjad, as they call it, from abjadiyya in Arabic, which uses only consonants. And many languages do not function with that. This is one of the reasons, beyond all the political things, why, for instance, in Tamazight Ifina was favored, also for historical reasons. But a lot of other languages would prefer that. Think of the classic example of Turkish, which used the equivalent of a Perso-Arabic script. And Kemal Atatürk had enough at one point of having, keeping backward scholarship, because people had spent 500 years learning the script before adapting it. Because Turkey is a completely different language. It's agglutinative, it's also, anyway, it's not like Arabic, it has consonants. Abjad does not have consonants, and you have to adapt to things. So forget the ideological thing. Take the tool that serves the purpose best. That's really what I wanted to say. However, as you know, they used to speak the same language, Hindustani basically, and then after partition, India chose to keep the Devanagari script, which came back from Sanskrit. Whereas Pakistan, which is the Muslim, acquired the Arabic script from the 11th century from the Persian invasion. That's why they call it Perso-Arabic script. And so it's history, but it's also ideology. So when you're thinking how many languages in Africa were completely without script, and then the successive conferences of UNESCO, for instance, helped adapt the Latin script to the languages, which means every language can be written, and a script like Latin has grown itself and it can be used for other things, but others aren't good. Forget the ideology, think the tool, think the purpose. But just to finish, he's just introduced, he finished very beautifully, I think, in what we were saying earlier. Fakhruddin does not come from an academic background. He's not here as a scholar to present us things. He comes from a non-profit organization, an institution which is part of the community. As I said earlier, the community is all. And the community is the language speakers, but it's also the journalists, you said, the policy makers, and everybody else. So this is the thing. He's here. We're not here just as an academic conference. When the Foundation for Endangered Languages always tries to include communities, because they're the ones who speak the language, they're the ones who are concerned, and they're the ones sometimes who are responsible for the lack of the loss of their own languages, and they have to be reassured that it can happen, the revitalization. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Therefore, from the field, it's walking the talk, more than academizing about things. Now I give the floor to the audience in case they have questions, reflections. First and foremost, Professor Sarit, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Fakhruddin, for actually a very inspiring experience you are bringing here. And while following your talk and the picture you were showing us, I noticed wherever you showed photos, no gender, no women. How come? Are women really involved in this experience, or and to what extent are women really also involved in this experience of language maintenance? Because I think that mothers or women have a key role to play in language maintenance or language revitalization or whatever.
Yes, that is a good question. And women, spreading women picture is, you can say, culturally. But nowadays, there are pictures women allow us to use. You can say 3 out of these 30 communities, 3 language women from three communities allow us to use their picture. Otherwise, they don't allow. Even many of our activities are participated by women. So we have even to ask them. If I should ask them, I'm using your picture for my presentation.
But you should have mentioned it, because when we see the presentation, we have the impression, or you give the impression that women are excluded. So you should have said that there are organizations where women are also involved, but of course for cultural reasons, I'm not.
Activities-wise, they are not excluded. Recently, last month we carried out teacher training in mother tongue. 40 were women and 40 were men. So equal representation. So
I was just afraid that women are excluded there.
Data protection. Yeah. Thank you very much. We pass the micro over to the professor here. Yeah.
Thank you, Fakhruddin, for this very interesting, I think, presentation. What your organization does, I think, it's really remarkable, because it seems to me that it's not just promoting the endangered languages, but this is also a question of literacy. In some of these mountain areas, people have difficulty into the literacy. And I know that in the case of Tajikistan, for example, in 1930s, in order to eradicate illiteracy, some attempt was made to produce textbooks in mother tongue. Okay, it was they worked for about 10 years, when people become more educated, they are more aware of the opportunities and strains of which their language sometimes imposes. Then when the question comes that, especially for the parents, what utility the language have for them. So I'm just wondering, in your context, do you sense that the work which is carried out, is it primarily to tackle illiteracy, in addition to local languages, the education is also, it also provides in other languages, like in Urdu and English, is also taught along the local languages. Is it the case of the children only get education in their mother tongue until the age of 7 or the class 7, and then they move to Urdu and English?
Yes, according to the educationist, the right approach is that you should start from the mother tongue of the child. The medium of instruction in school should be the mother tongue of the child. But in Pakistan, we are facing the challenges. Being a colonial of British, English is important. Our children should learn English. And then second, Urdu, as Professor told, that Urdu, ideologically, Urdu has been made our national language. So these two are, government has convinced people that these two languages are right languages. So, but nowadays we have just succeeded in making the mother tongue as a subject. They are taught as a subject together with Urdu and English. There is one book from kindergarten to class 7 for the children. So they are learning just a subject, not medium hours. That is quite challenging and it will take time.
Thank you very much. Any more comments to the presentation? We declare it closed. We move to the right. So thank you very much indeed, distinguished field worker. Thanks to academician.